Hey, this is Josh, and welcome to my series on tips for online learners. Today is all going to be about making a schedule, since many online programs give students a bit of freedom with making their own schedule. But with that kind of freedom comes the responsibility of sticking to his schedule. So today I'm just going to be giving some tips about making your own schedule and how you can fit in all of your subjects and making sure you get all of your work in on time and making sure the school year goes as good as it possibly can. So why it's important to make a schedule. So when you're making your own schedule, it gives you something that keeps you accountable. Okay. It's something you can look at every single day and be like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do that. Make sure you can get everything in on time, but also making sure you have a bit of room for breaks and that you're not starting super early and ending super late. So it's important to keep yourself organized. Again, it's to make sure that you dedicate the right amount of time to each subject. So in a regular face-to-face school setting, it's the teachers or sometimes even a guidance counselor. They'll put your schedule together and that's what you stick to. And that's when you show up to each class, or that's when there's a bit of a shift in the school day to a different subject. But again, in many online programs, it's the responsibility of the students to make their own schedule and stick to the schedule. So that's why this is important. And that's the biggest difference between a face-to-face school and an online school. So a typical school day is about 6.5 to 7 hours. And the nice thing about making your own schedule is you can work in your own breaks. And, because some students might need some more breaks, some might need less, some might want 45 minutes for lunch, some might want an hour for lunch. You have lots of flexibility. And in some online schools, of course, it depends on the school, you can even adjust your schedule for the week. So if you want to do school from Sunday to Thursday, so that way you can have Friday and Saturday as your weekend. In many schools, you can do that. Just keep in mind, your online teachers are probably only available from Monday to Friday. So if you're doing school on a Sunday, your online teacher is probably not available to help you out if you get stuck on something. So that's something to keep in mind. You also want to make sure that you prioritize your core subjects, because subjects like English, math, socials, and science will require more time than some subjects such as art. And of course, art is still important. I'm not saying that it's not important, but just keep in mind that subjects, especially English and math, you're going to need to dedicate more time. And of course, high school is a bit of an exception because you might not be taking English or math that semester. And I'll get more into that later. So if you have other school commitments throughout the week, it's best to start your schedule with those in mind first. Okay. Get the things that are going to be set every single week. Like if you do student council or if you do sports or something like that, it's best to work that in first, and then you can piece together all of your subjects around that. And usually a lot of these extracurricular programs will be at the same time every single week, so it shouldn't be a problem to work those in first and then work around it. So I wanted to get into a few examples of a few kind of made up students that I've come up with here, their situation and what subjects they take and all of that. So the first one here, I have Steve. He's in grade 6. He takes all of your regular grade 6 classes. So English, math, social science, PE and health, art, applied design, skills, technologies, careers, and then French as a second language. He also has a cooking class from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. every single Wednesday. And he also has soccer practice after school on Thursdays. So here's the schedule that I made for Steve. So I have the school day starting, well, from Monday to Thursday at least, starting with English and then a break and then math. Now, the reason why I did that is most students, I find their brains are a bit more ready to go in the mornings. So having those really important subjects like English and math, those really important core subjects in the morning, will probably work best for most students. But of course, every student is different. So if you find you're more productive in the afternoons, consider putting English and math in the afternoons instead. Everybody's different, totally understand. Now, I also worked in a time on Wednesday for him to have his cooking class, but you can see the school day on Wednesdays end a little bit earlier, or sorry, a little bit later. So 3:15 most days, and then I have 3:30 here on Wednesdays. Now, another thing I did as well, since I tagged on 15 minutes there, I actually did that so I could take off 15 minutes on Thursday, just so he has a bit of time to prepare for soccer on Thursday afternoons. And the second student I have here is Rachel. She's in grade 12, and this semester she is taking English, drama, chemistry, and physics. Rachel also has student council meetings every Monday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So with many high school students only taking, let's say, 4 classes, maybe 5, maybe less, maybe even 1, 2, or 3 courses, you have a lot more flexibility in your schedule. So I actually have 2 different options for Rachel's schedule. Now, the first one here, most days I have each subject with an hour and a half of time dedicated to it, starting with English in the mornings. And you can see that Mondays I've actually taken 15 minutes off of each subject just to make sure she has an hour for student council on Mondays as well. Now, another thing with a lot of online high school classes is you might get ahead in one class and you want to dedicate that time to a subject that you might be a bit behind in, which is totally understandable. And you have the flexibility to rearrange your schedule throughout the semester or throughout the year. So in this first example, I have Rachel taking all 4 courses every single day. But in option 2, I actually have it split up a bit differently. So if you're the kind of student that just likes to work on a subject for 3 hours at a time and just dedicate a big part of your day to that one subject, you might want to consider doing something like this, where you have the entire morning dedicated to English in this case, with student council in there as well. So starting with English, student council, and then continue with English. And then you have chemistry in the afternoons. And then every other day, you mix it up. So physics in the morning, drama in the afternoon, English in the morning on Wednesdays, chemistry in the afternoon on Wednesdays, back to physics in the mornings on Thursdays, and then drama in the afternoons on Thursdays, and so on. And every second week, you would just flip this. So instead of English on Mondays, you have physics on Mondays. Instead of chemistry in the afternoon on Mondays, you have drama. This might work for some, but if you find that you can't really focus on one subject for that long of a stretch, you might be better off going with option 1. So in terms of where to store your timetable, odds are you have a lot of options. So if your school is like mine and students have their own Office 365 account, I highly recommend using the Outlook calendar or even the Teams calendar. Teams is the platform that we use for online meetings. And if you have an Office 365 account, your school probably uses that for clubs and online classes as well. And the Teams calendar allows you to access those online classes right away, right through the calendar. So there you go. You can also use a calendar on your phone. I know I use my calendar on my iPhone pretty often, especially when it comes to appointments and just putting stuff in. And of course, you can just do this out on paper as well. So some people will benefit from having like a nice big visual on your wall or something like that. Certainly nothing wrong with that either. So thank you so much for checking out my video on making a schedule for online learners. I recommend you check out some other videos from my series. I have tons of tips for online learners, and I'm happy to help.